can we tell when we're ever ready? How do we know if we're ever prepared? If you're anything like me, you would have thought of that this morning before getting ready with your TED Talk, like my colleagues here, or like the young people getting ready for this fabulous TEDx event, or all the rest of you in your busy day. Because being ready and being prepared is extremely important. Being ready and being prepared is the key to success. I'm the principal of an inner city school not far from here at all that takes readiness really seriously, but more specifically, school readiness. School readiness refers to a time of transition when children are about 5 years old between home and school. And it's a powerful indicator of academic performance, future behaviour, and employment prospects. A lack of school readiness caused by socioeconomic differences between children's cognitive, social, and emotional differences is one of the biggest inequalities in our society today, and one that we need to take action on as we think about what kind of a society do we want to create. Now, I get really excited about school, and I hope you will too today. And I'm going to talk 3 dimensions about school readiness. Ready children, ready schools, and ready families and communities. So what is a ready child? Not really what's on that picture, right? Ready children for school are children who have a certain set of skills and abilities that are necessary for school success, okay? Certain skills in literacy, numeracy, emerging literacy, language, social and emotional competencies, motor skills, physical well-being, a huge range of factors. And research shows that children from marginalised communities are often at a deficit in these factors. And the statistics show that. 4,500 of our young people don't go on to finish their junior cert. 33% of our children in marginalised communities leave primary school with literacy difficulties. In the recent Higher Education Authority report, when they looked at Dublin, they saw 66% of the young people went on to university, but of that 66%, 89 to 99% came from the affluent areas of Dublin, but only 19 to 33% came from our more marginalised areas. That is a disgrace, and those statistics are shocking, but Ready schools can compensate. Ready schools have developed a child-centred curriculum that bridges the gap between the home environment of children in marginalised communities and the school environment. Ready schools have a curriculum that's based on social and emotional competencies, which teaches self-awareness, which teaches emotional literacy, which teaches self-regulation, which teaches relationship skills, and which teaches responsible decision-making. I have a Ready school, and I'm going to tell you all about it in a minute. And we got our school ready by cultivating empathy, by promoting leadership, and by promoting a sense of belonging in our students. I got my job at the age of 26, and by 27, I'd aged about 10 years. I certainly don't look as fabulous as I do today. And I learned a few things. I learned more about football than the average apathetic sporting individual should ever have to know. Because they were football mad, and they still are football mad. And if you haven't guessed, I'm in an all-boys school. And in the inner city, where football, there's great prowess to football. And what used to happen back in those days was there used to be a lot of fights, physical fights in the schoolyard. And the people that were fighting were invariably sent to my office. So as I tried to make sense of what happened on the schoolyard, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of tears, there was a lot of frustration. I couldn't figure out why. Didn't have a huge amount of interest either. But what I did notice is these kids had a huge amount of emotion. And who knew emotion and passion were so intricately linked? But obviously I found that out. But they were angry, and they were upset, and they were extremely frustrated a huge amount of the time. And I began to realize that these children needed the language to express that emotion, and they needed the strategies to manage these emotions. So I started to teach the language of emotions. Literacy. I started to teach empathy. I started to give these boys the strategies to deal with the emotions as they occurred. So I had a toolbox. Count backwards from 20 to 100. Tell yourself you can handle this. Tell yourself you can calm down, you can start again. Tell yourself to stop. The fights in the yard decreased. But what also happened was behaviour in the entire school improved. And obviously academic performance improved because children were not as deregulated in the afternoons. So this changed the whole climate of our school. We realised that cultivating empathy and teaching emotional literacy was the key. So we set up a language literacy programme. We started to teach an empathy-based methodology programme. And outside my office, I have a mirror. And I tell the boys when they're passing by the mirror every day to give it a kiss. And like, oh, shit, that's disgusting. No way. But obviously what I'm telling them is to own their emotions, to acknowledge their emotions. Emotions are powerful. Emotions are central to our thinking. What we learned as a staff was that building school readiness meant that we had to have an emotionally and socially enhanced school climate. The school readiness was dependent on the needs of the children that we taught and the context in which they lived. And school readiness had to be based on this curriculum. And the only way we could get our children ready was by building positive relationships. Relationships between us and the children, relationships between us and the rest of the community. The next logical step was fostering or cultivating a sense of belonging. And to cultivate a sense of belonging, and taking the word cultivate, we decided to set up a window farm. And this window farm proved to be really successful because we worked with the families that we teach and the kids, and we took a problem that we both shared. So a problem that we both have with space is a premium in the inner city. They have none, we have very little. I wanted little urban farmers, and I also wanted to teach them some business skills. So we set up a social enterprise. And with the window farm, they started to harvest mint and harvest herbs, and they sold herbs at Christmas, and they've got a little lemonade business going where they sell little packages with the harvest of the mint, some sugar, and a recipe card, and they absolutely love it. And they're making a few bob, which is really, really important. When we were fostering leadership, we had leaders that were managing the urban farm, but something else with fostering leadership when it came to the schoolyard. We are no longer needed on the yard. I am no longer needed on the schoolyard. I can keep my looks and keep young. The teachers are not bothered so much because now we have got children on the yard managing the yard. The children have been trained in conflict resolution, and their peers have nominated them as playground leaders. These kids have little cards in their shirt pockets, and on the card have the following questions. What happened? What were you thinking and feeling at the time? What are you thinking and feeling now? How can we make things better? And how can we make sure this doesn't happen again? So when there's a problem, they go to the playground leader, and the playground leader solves the conflict. That's a far cry from the war zone that I walked into 10 years ago with footballs flying and legs flying and kids crying. But my biggest triumph, and one that makes me so proud, and I could talk about it for days. So this war zone, now, 3 times a day, to the sound of a Tibetan bowl. Oh my God, that's my lemonade, sorry. To the sound of a Tibetan bowl that is rung. Drop tools, drop footballs, put their hands in their stomach, take big deep breaths in and contemplate and meditate. They live in the present moment. This is where we've gotten our inner city children, from cultivating empathy, promoting leadership, and fostering a sense of belonging. We've got our children ready, and ready schools have been vital to getting our children ready. However, getting our families ready is a much bigger and much wider issue, one that schools and children cannot tackle on their own. Getting families and communities ready needs you. There's been so much talk in our country on the issue of equality in the last few months. I think it's time we opened up a real conversation about child poverty. Fintan O'Toole, our leading journalist, spoke about a national campaign to end child poverty. He urges us to be more ambitious than the government's figures of ending child poverty by 2/3 by 2010. That still leaves 38,000 children in consistent poverty. That's not good enough. It's time to open up the conversation. It's time to get our children ready. It's time to empower our schools and our population to make this real change. I believe we can do it. It'll take courage. It'll take hard work. There's a little inner city school not too far from here that is more than ready. I hope you guys are too.